So how essential is proficiency in French and English? Adam Wilson is the president of the Conservative Association at McGill University. He is on Kelly Leitch's campaign team, and he's in Quebec City for the debate tonight. Karmveer Lal is in Edmonton and is the acting vice president at the University of Alberta Progressive Conservative Association. Hello to you both. So Adam, let me start with you. What do you think about that? Do you think that a leader of the Conservative Party needs to be able to speak French?
I think it's absolutely essential that our leader is able to speak French. I mean, 25% of the population of Canada speaks French as their first language. And I think it's important that our leader is able to communicate effectively with people all across Canada, and that includes the rural ridings in Alberta and Ontario, where there are very small communities of people who speak French as their first language.
Karmveer, do you think so?
Actually, I don't think so. I think it's important that any leader of the Conservative Party is able to articulate a message. It doesn't matter if this message is in English or in French, but the important thing is that the Conservative Party is able to reach out to as broad a swath of voters as possible. I don't think it's necessary that this has to be in French. I think it's just necessary to have something that resonates with all Canadians.
And Adam, what do you make of that? That if the message is there, what's the need to be able to say it in French?
Well, I think it goes beyond just delivering the message of the campaign that we would run in 2019. I think that by choosing a leader for our party that does not speak French, we are essentially telling that 25% of the population that we don't care about you and we don't care what language you prefer to listen to our leader speak. And I think that if we plan on winning in 2019, it's extremely important that we are able to tell the people of Quebec and of those rural ridings I spoke about earlier that we care about them and we care about what they have to say.
And Karmveer, what would you say about that? That it's sending a message to, the 20 to 25% of the country that speaks French as their mother language?
So I think that Quebecois voters are able to discern, what sort of policies and what sort of ideas will benefit me and benefit my province and benefit their communities. I think that that message could be delivered in a number of forms. I don't think it's necessary that the leader themselves have to articulate that message, because as we saw in the last election, there's different ways of reaching out to voters, be that the leader themselves, be that through advertisements, be that through their campaign team. I think it's just important to find a message that sticks and works for the entire country and the various communities within that country.
Adam, now you're supporting Kelly Leitch, and her French isn't great. Some, I guess, would say it's passable. So does that concern you?
Well, I think that speaks to an important point about this, in that I'm not expecting the leader of the party to be fluent in French today, but I expect them to be fluent in French by 2019, so they can debate Justin Trudeau. And speaking about Kelly, she spent 3 weeks over the summer learning French, and then she's spending 3 weeks this month learning French in Quebec, and she has French lessons every day. And I can say that in June and July, when I spoke to her in French, her French wasn't very good. But today, I can have a full-on conversation with Kelly in French, and I think that hard work and about learning that language that we expect them to speak is extremely important.
And Karmveer, I mean, this is an officially bilingual country. The federal government is officially bilingual. The House of Commons is officially bilingual. How can you say that the leader of a major party who would want to be prime minister of the country doesn't have to be proficient or at least functional in both official languages?
Well, I never said that the leader never needs to be functional. I mean, surely it's important that if a leader needs to, visit a campaign stop or, deliver an address in Montreal or Quebec, that they should be able to, at very least, articulate a basic message reading off a script. But I think I stand by my claim that a leader simply needs to be be able to front a message that articulates to all Canadians. And
but
doesn't necessarily...
what if that leader is able? Okay, you can I could read a script in Spanish, but I don't speak Spanish. And what if somebody wants to respond to me in Spanish? Let's say I were in a different, what I'm trying to say, right? So the leader of the party reads off a script in French in a language he or she doesn't understand, and then maybe somebody in these ridings wants to speak to that leader, and the leader will have to say, "Sorry, I can't understand what you're saying."
Well, I think we can talk about how our democracy is built. And our democracy is built on the principle of local representation. The individual MPs who are within the ridings and the candidates who are running for their seats in the House of Commons, they're responsible for communicating with the leader and the House of Commons the concerns of their riding. I think the leader of the party needs to articulate a vision and like an overall governing principle for all of their MPs on their team to follow. But I don't think necessarily the leader themselves needs to be the front of every single message that's delivered across the country.
So Adam, what do you say to that?
I would say that as, regional representation is extremely important. If we make the decision to choose a leader who does not speak French, we're actually putting a lot of work on our current Quebec MPs to make up the ground game in Quebec, to tell them that we care about them. I think that if we chose a leader who specifically does not speak French, we will put a lot of the burden of winning more seats in Quebec on those Quebec MPs, and that shouldn't be the case. We should be choosing someone who can effectively communicate across to all Canadians.
So Karen Beer, let me turn it around for you and say, what if the leader only spoke French and didn't speak English? Would that be okay?
I mean, sure. We've seen leaders who can only speak French fluently and struggle with English. Stéphane Dion is an example that I can come up with off the top of my head. And in the 2008 election, Stéphane Dion was still relatively competitive in Ontario, still winning over 30 seats. So I think that Canadians don't necessarily focus on the leader's language ability, and instead focus on the message, the overall message that the party and their campaign is articulating. And I think that that's sort of what we saw from 2011 to 2015. I don't think that Mr. Harper dramatically improved his French language skills from the 2011 election to the 2015 election.
But Stephen Harper went from being fairly unilingual and not very functional in French to being quite fluent in French, and he made a point of becoming fluent in French over time.
Yes, but if we look back at past electoral history, we see actually a decrease in the number of seats won from 2008 to 2011. And I think that's largely because Quebecois voters saw the Conservative Party as being too rooted in, I guess, Western politics. But I think that because we changed our approach in 2015, we had a message that better resonated with Quebec voters, and I think that's why we won 7 more seats from 2011 to 2015.
This was an interesting discussion. Appreciate you both taking the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is Adam Wilson, the president of the Conservative Association at McGill University. He joined me from Quebec City. He's on Kelly Leach's campaign team. And Karen Beer is acting vice president of the University of Alberta Progressive Conservative Association. And he was speaking to me from Edmonton.